So hello, we're back. This time we're looking at Big in Japan. And just a quick note, obviously we've got the Titans down in the bottom left-hand corner. We're going to use these as kind of a reference for discussion if we ever need to bring up the Titans, but we're not comparing the Titans, so we're not counting the Titans as one of the best cards in the expansion. We're going to do a separate run-off for the Titan Event Kit pack because that was released as an expansion for Smash Up, and we probably won't incorporate that. That'll just be its own tournament. For this, we felt that there was too much integration with the Titans, and they were really need to be considered always to be in play for one of the actual cards to be considered one of the best cards. So I don't know if that kind of captures what we were thinking with the Titans, but it was just a bit too. I suppose if we had one of the Titans, it may well have won, and then it doesn't really, because it's so faction specific, couldn't really be considered to be one of the best cards. So that's kind of why we ruled out the Titans. So with that out of the way, let's kick straight off in the top corner. So we've got Lunar Captain up against Critter Cube. So I'll just make him go big. So who wants to kick this one off for us? Who thinks Critter Cube should be through to the next round?
I mean, this is Lunar Captain's one of the strongest cards in this, I think. You'd be hard pushed to argue for Critter Cube, although I'm sure you can make a good case, Mark. I think Lunar Captain's better. She's very powerful, particularly within her own faction. The idea is you have a lot of numbers in there, and putting a minion from your discard pile into your hand is such a huge play. It works very well with the cats. I can't remember what the little cats are called that are only power 1.
Oh yeah, the white cat and black cat, isn't it, or something?
Yeah, like and they let you search out Lunar Captain and the other powerful one. So it's a very, very nice combination. It has a lot of synergies. It worked well with a lot of factions. Putting minions from your discard into your hand is always good, and I think it's really good. Critter Cube is a nice card. I think it's a bit niche. It's different. If it didn't have the limitation to power 3 or less, I think it'd be very good. But I think it's only okay.
It would probably be too good if it had no power cap on it.
Yeah. But because of that, it's just a bit of a gimmick to me.
I think power 3 or less still captures, the majority of the minions in the game.
Yeah, and some ones that you really want to kind of get off the board, even if it's temporarily. You get your first mate taken away from you without destruction, albeit, and I get a chance to sort of put it back down, but it gets taken away from you. And your invader, if you're able to, or lucky enough to be able to put that in there as well, you can get rid of somebody's invader or potentially your own invader as well, as another way of being able to recycle it. But I think Luke's right. I think Lunar Captain is one of the better cards that we're going to be talking about tonight. So it makes it a fairly easy choice for me. I will say that I think Critter Cube's a really good card for the faction, so it works exceptionally well in the critters, essentially, in the way that this sort of engine and the mechanics behind the critters and how they're kind of designed to work. But I think Lunar Captain is by far and away the better card, and just comparing face values, I'm going to try my best tonight to try and stay consistent with a plan, and I'm really going to go for face values on betterness, if that's England at all. But yeah, I'm going to go with Lunar Captain for my choice for these two.
Yeah, I think you're right in terms of Critter Cube being really good in the faction, because obviously if you steal someone else's power 2 minion or less, you can then use your critter champion and your critter coaches to keep on bringing that minion of power 2 or less out, get the effect of it, and shuffle it back in your deck, so that person never gets their card back, because you're constantly just shuffling it back into your deck. And I think that's what people forget about Critter Cube, is it's probably the strongest removable card in the game, in that you think about placing a minion on the bottom of someone's deck is probably one of the strongest effects, in terms of they'll almost never see it again. Shuffling it into their deck is pretty strong. Destroying it is pretty strong. Returning it to hand is okay. But the ultimate removal effect is to shuffle it into your deck, and then they can never see it again. So, if you never play it again, they'll never see it again. So people forget about the fact that it's an incredibly strong removal card, as well as being versatile for shuffling your own stuff in. And as you say, if you steal an invader, that's probably the best on playability you could ever steal. So I think if there is that sticky target out there that you want to get rid of, it is the best removal card in the game for doing that if it's a power 3 or less. So I think people forget the strength in terms of its removal power, not just its versatility in itty
And
critters.
I know I did as well, and I kind of forgotten about some of the little niche plays that you could do with an itty critter whilst we were going through picking our top 3 this week. So yeah, I came across this one. I was quite excited by perhaps the potential of some of the plays that you could really pull off for it, and I did think that it synergizes amazingly well with its own faction. But there is that kind of, you need to be in the right kind of place, the right kind of time to make it work. Sometimes it's just going to, like you say, it's just a little bit tricky to kind of pull off the big play. Whereas Luna Captain is going to recycle your minions back into your hands. That's essentially the power of the zombies, and I'll take that all day.
Yeah, I mean, Critter Cube is good, but I think Luna Captain's better. But spoilers, I don't think Luna Captain's one of the best cards on the slide here. So I'm probably not going to be arguing its case anymore after the first round. But let's see what goes through.
Me versus you, then, is it?
Yeah, I think we agree. I mean, Critter Cube it's really good. I really like the effect of being able to steal other people's stuff. It's very Vikings-esque, and Vikings are incredibly polarizing faction, as Luke well knows. But
anything that lets me wind Luke up, that lets me wind Luke up is good in my book.
Yeah, if you love that kind of gameplay, it's great, and I do. So, but sadly, not as good as Luna Captain. Okay, so we've got Lightning Rescue up against Kaijuki for the Kaiju. So, Lee, why don't you start us off on this one? Which one do you?
Yeah, I will do.
It's a tough one, I think it's a real tough one.
Yeah, it's on the face of it, you don't think it's particularly tough, but then you start thinking about some of the potentials of both of these cards. Now, I'm instantly going to go back on literally one of the last things that I just said, and I'm going to include the power of the Kaiju when I'm talking about Kaijuki, because obviously its ability, its on play ability, and its ongoing ability, the +1 power for each action on the base. That is the Kaiju strength. It is supposed to be. It's supposed to be on base ability heavy, and it synergizes exceptionally well with all of the other factions that go in that kind of vein as well, and that's what makes that card a particularly exciting card to play down. I also think that that's one of your big burners within the faction. It sort of synergizes really well with Gorgonzola. It synergizes exceptionally well in its own faction, and I think if you talk about taking that card out and putting it into other factions, it would work really well. I'm thinking about Incas comes to mind for on. Oh no, maybe not Incas. What's the one I'm thinking
about? Ancient Incas, they do have a lot of on-play turn-based action.
It is on. Yeah, it is
Incas. Truckers are your usual.
Truckers is the other one I was thinking of. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, the one I usually my go-to is a Truckers. So and I like that game. I like to play on base abilities. I like to sort of cheese it that way a little bit, because that's the kind of clevery, underhandy play that kind of you ramp up to a big play, and that's what Kaijuki allows you to do. So I do think that whilst it works exceptionally well in the Kaiju, that's where its kind of strength is. I've not talked a great deal about Lightning Rescue. I was telling you, Mark, and you, Luke, as we were going through these factions, I think there was I'm a fan of the Kaiju anyway. I've not really played a great deal of Itty Critters, and I don't think I've ever played the girls, but I have played the Power Rangers once or twice before, and I'd forgotten how bad I think they actually genuinely are. They're to me, they're worse than superheroes. So they're a pretty terrible faction in terms of things. But the other ones I was saying I was really quite excited to play a little bit more. So it's hard for me to argue for Lightning Rescue, but just purely based on the actual card, I'm a big fan of a special play card before a base scores, an extra action as a special action, and like we were talking about just before in the warm-up, I think Luke actually said it, the whole idea of the Power Rangers faction is that they are on play action based factions, and actually they've got some really quite good instant power up or short term power ups that would work really well as a sort of special extra play action card. So it's not to say that Lightning Rescue is not a particularly good card, and I do like to jump in with the special, but for me the bigger play, the more exciting play is Kaijuki, and that's going to get my vote all day.
Interesting. I mean, to me, it's Kaijuki's great in the faction, yeah. It's not as universally good, but Kaiju have 9 play-on-based actions. They've got the most play-on-based actions in the game, I think. So no matter what you pair it with, Kaiju is always going to get value just because Kaiju brings so much value for it. To me, it's a bit boring, I suppose. It's good. I can't deny that it's good, but it's essentially King Rex, possibly King Rex Plus. And King Rex is great, but it's just very streamlined. It's very linear. It does one thing. It always comes down as at least a power 7, if not more. Then you probably shouldn't be playing Kaijuki if it's coming down for less than that. It's your big, base break and it's your big finish, but it's just a bit linear and a bit streamlined for me. I'm going to put Lightning Rescue through, and it's purely for this play on that I saw on Facebook that someone was describing, where they played Lightning Rescue to play a crop circle from hand to pick up everyone's player's minion on that base, and then they just dropped Green Trooper to win the base. And that's the kind of plays that Lightning Rescue makes you, allows you to do. And you said it yourself, like the Mega Troopers don't really have. They've got Mega Attack, which is probably your best target for Lightning Rescue. But outside of that, they don't really have many great targets. But this card opens up plays like the Aliens, where you can crop circle stuff. You could even terraforming it as a special action before the base scores, and we know how strong that can be. So
yeah, I
think it just opens up a lot more kind of dynamic plays for me. So I would probably put Lightning Rescue through just because, as I say, it kind of has that. It's quite a low. It's currently probably at a low power level in the Mega Troopers, but it can do stuff. But it can go way higher than Kaijuki can, which is kind of why I'm.
I'll say in rebuttal, it's an interesting comparison really, because both of them on the face of it aren't that good. If you're just comparing like for like in terms of the face cards, like how good is Lightning Rescue? Well, you need to have the play in your hand to make Lightning Rescue good, in the same way that to make Kaijuki good, you need to have the plays on the base. So on the face of it, neither card is a particularly great card, but both cards have the option to be great. So I get what you're saying, but I mean I'm unlikely to change my mind because I'm never going to vote for a Power Troops card. But I'm unlikely to think that it's better. But I can absolutely see having the Dreamers scenario, having the perfect thing lined up. And honestly, nothing would be more fun than being able to watch someone think, particularly Luke, think that he's won a base and to drop something down that just ruins his day and to win it on one extra. I'd love that. That would be quite good fun. But I'm more for the power in the base up and putting the big play, the big play down and smashing that base to pieces. So. Yeah, I think it's fair, but
I can completely agree. Lightning Rescue is as good as the card you're playing. So, but Lightning Rescue allows you to do that, which is the strength of Lightning Rescue. Kaijuki is like as interesting as Kaijuki gets. Is it going to be 6 power? Is it going to be 8 power? Is it going to be a 9 power Kaijuki? That's kind of as interesting as Kaijuki gets.
Yeah, and I get that, but
it's really good, but it kind of is at a certain power level like that. It's powerful, but then the most powerful it can get is slightly above that, and it's Lightning Rescue starts lower than Kaijuki, but it can go way higher, and that's kind of I like
I accept
kind of
that
cards.
And I do accept that, but how often are you likely to have crop circle in your hand? How often are you likely to have terraform in your hand? So you're looking at the Dreamers scenario in one case and then talking about it in terms of 1 or 2 extra power in the other case. It's not a fair comparison. If you're talking about the Dreamers scenario, I've got 10 actions on the base and it's now a 14 power card.
What we're debating here is consistency versus the dream, or like realism versus idealism. It's kind of like, this is your realistic strong Kaijuki is consistently strong, whereas Lightning Rescue is maybe it could be really, really good, and that's kind of what I like about Lightning Rescue. And then it opens the door for other partners. Like there's partners where you can never have, like zombies that don't have a special. You're right. That don't have specials, and this gives them a special.
You're right. And I guess that's what we're sort of saying. We are both saying the same sort of thing, and I think.
I'm going with more, and you value.
I'm valuing the consistency and the predictability more than the fact that I'm hoping that I've got the right card to make Lightning Rescue better. Yeah, that's fair.
I know that Luke is a dreamer, so I know Luke's going to come down on my side here.
Well, we'll see, won't we?
I'm just sitting here quietly going, "You can fight all you want, Lee, but I'm a dreamer, and we're dreaming about Lightning Rescue." There's so many great action cards in the game that you can manipulate one way or another. And even if you've got a fairly vanilla action card, give a minion +3 power or anything like that, it's the same as a Shinobi, which is quite highly regarded in the special world. You can make any action instantly way more valuable than it is by using this card to play it when other people have a limited opportunity to reply or do anything about what you're actually doing. That's its flaw. Even rubbish actions can get a boost here and still give you a chance to win a base. There might not be the perfect dream scenario where you win the base on its own using the Green Trooper, but that's the upper echelon of it. You can do all sorts in between. It depends what you pair it with on how good you can actually make it. But Aliens is a great example. There's loads of good. Aliens is probably the best example with two of the strongest.
That crop circle one.
Yeah, crop circle, terraforming. I'm a fan of that. There really is some fantastic actions that have unlimited power if you play them as a special. So my vote is very much for Lightning Rescue.
Nice. You've been outvoted there, Tank, but
if that's the way, that's the way, and I'm fine with that. But
it is a solid pick, Kaijuki. It's a very good card, consistently strong.
And I think that's the difference between it. But it's absolutely fine. It was bound to happen eventually. I was bound to lose one of those eventually. I've won so many of them, so
that's true. Like, you've got your first little victory there.
That's true.
Feels good.
So next up, we've got Critter Champion and Pink Trooper. Now, that's a little bit blurry. Hold on, I'll minimize that a bit. Okay.
She was always the most attractive of all the Power Rangers when I was a kid.
Is that why you put her through?
Kimberly.
Now, I'm going to let one of you guys start because I put Black Trooper through as my number 1 seed, and there'll be people out there who are outraged that it didn't get through. So I'd like to explain why you felt Pink Trooper should come through ahead of Black Trooper.
I don't think the people that are in the majority need to explain themselves. I think the people that's in the minority needs to explain why he bothered with Black Trooper instead of Pink Trooper. So I think you should go first.
I'd be arguing for a card that's not even on the slide. So, it's Zombie Lord all over again.
Wait, we're allowed to bring Body Shot back as well?
Body Shot didn't even make anybody's list, let's be honest. Well, I mean, for me, this is dead straightforward because, as I've just said, I didn't want I wanted Black Trooper through ahead of Pink Trooper. Pink Trooper didn't even make my 3.
Why?
Because Black Trooper is like the whole. It's the king minion of the faction. It's the central power engine of Mega Troopers because they've got so many specials. Any base that Black Trooper is on is going to get plus 3, 4, 5, even more power than that. So it's like the equivalent of dropping an extra big drop down at the same time as breaking a base. And it's not something that they can really account for as well. They can see the specials you've got in play. They can't necessarily see the specials you're going to play from hand. So even if they try and mitigate the potential power increase of Black Trooper, it's still the big power play of the Mega Troopers. It's for me, it's their best card. It's even better than Lightning Rescue, and that's probably contradictory because I just argue for Lightning Rescue over the consistent power increasing minion. But for me, it's the big card of the faction. So I get why you put Pink Trooper through because you like the whole kind of recurring thing, and you can get your Green Trooper back with Pink Trooper. But it's a no-brainer. This one for me. It's definitely Critter Champion going through because Critter Champion is the engine of the Itty Critters. It's what makes them tick, and they need their power 2s coming out, and Critter Champion is what can do that over and over again. And the best thing about it is it's not necessarily increasing power every single time because obviously they go back at the end of the turn. So it's not like Venus Mantrap, which is probably the most comparable king minion to this, where you're getting a 2 power minion out every time and it keeps on building up the power on the base and eventually it goes. You can kind of get a lot of value from Critter Champion. You can get out your, I can't think it's Tadpole or something like that, where you can move a minion, you can move your Critter Champion to always keep it in play. So it's what makes the Itty Critters tick. So for me, it's a comfortable and it's Critter Champion, and it's good with any faction that has lots of good 2 power minions. Whereas Pink Troop is good, but no, it's not Critter Champion level. It's not even Black Troop. In my opinion.
The nice thing about Critter Champion is it's basically allowing you to play an extra action every turn. Now, it's sort of not, but the whole point is you go and get whichever 2 power minion you want to get its on play action. And I think there's 5 of them, all do various little small actions, and that's how it churns. So you might just add a power counter, you might use it for the movement. There's a couple of others. It's nice to just be able to do that, play that, and you're basically getting an small extra action play each time. It is the engine of the critters, like you say. My argument for Pink Trooper is imagine getting something back like Invader. Maybe you get an extra Invader play. You put it down, you picked it up, you put it down, you can't pick it up again. base scores, it adds to the power, you get it back again. Just an extra safety net. There's a lot of good Green Trooper, even within the faction. There's a lot to be said about getting minions back instead of going to the discard pile for me. I'm a big fan of that. I do wish it wasn't the 3 power, but it has to have its limitations. I do think Critter Champion is better, but I think Pink Trooper is better than Black Trooper. If Black Trooper was a higher than a 3 power, I think it's very realistic to play 1, 2, maybe 3 specials. If that was a 4 power or a 5 power minion, all of a sudden you've got a really good card. I think it is limited by the fact that it's 3 power, and then are you just going to chain some specials to get a couple of extra points?
It's not special play, so it's every time a special triggers. So any card special on it will trigger Black Trooper. So they've got most of the cards in the faction say special. So every time you trigger special,
I still don't think it's that good. What are you going to get 3 power?
The last time I played these, the thing I noticed was it really suffered from not having cards in your hand. There was just no draw. There was no way of getting your engine going. So Black Trooper suffered because there was no way I was able to play enough to get anything out of Black Trooper. So I think that's why I favour Pink Trooper over Black Trooper, is that it's a bit more consistent, because I'm always going to get something back from Pink Trooper, whereas Black Trooper might not even, it might get 1 or 2 power up, and frankly that's just barely enough to even call it a king minion. I'm offended almost that they've all got 3. I'm offended by that. They're just it's a rubbish set of cards. They need to be redesigned because they're absolutely appalling. It's Critter Champion for me all day. And I was thinking of a play there as you were both talking. What's the minion in Shapeshifters? Is it the power 2 in Shapeshifters, which allows you to copy another minion's ability?
Yeah, copycat.
Yeah.
So could you not get an infinite number of copycats out with Critter Champion? Well, not an infinite number, but
they'd have to go back at the end.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but if you were popping a base, you Critter Champion on one other base, bring out your Critter Champion, bring out another Critter Champion, bring out another Critter Champion, because you're just copying. Sorry, bring out your copycat, copy the Critter Champion, bring out another copycat, bring out your Critter Champion, bring out another, or and with the last one, bring out a 0 power mimic that you're able to copy the 5 power from Critter Champion for. You can burst a base.
It's a big drop with it, definitely, but I don't think copycat and Critter Champion would work, because I think copycat wouldn't. I don't think you can copy a talent, because a talent has to be activated in play, whereas copycat is an on-play effect. So okay. I don't think it can copy.
I can't remember I was just thinking. It was just coming to my mind as we were talking. I think it says that you have to copy the writing on the card, but you'd be right in saying if it says ability, I guess it would be a roundabout. But that's maybe something to think about if we go in depth on that. But that was just as I was thinking about it. I thought, what about some sort of infinite loop where Critter Champion becomes this almighty card that's essentially just being copied and duplicated and played again and again. But I mean, it's no even discussion for me. I think we've already given the Power Troopers more than enough airtime. They need to be put back in the box and never played again.
I think it's
until Lightning Rescue comes back out in the next round.
I'm going to check that rule after we've done this, because I'm not sure that whether my answer was correct or not. I have a feeling it can't copy a talent, but if it can, that'd be amazing. You just go copycat, mimic, and you drop what's that, 13 extra power? Just
off a talent before you've played a minion.
Yeah. I don't think it does, though. I think that would be...
No, but
when do they go back?
Can you imagine if it did?
But when do they go back to the deck, though? After the base breaks?
Or
before?
Well, it says after your turn, doesn't it?
At the end of your turn, yeah.
At the end of your turn. So the base is broken at the end of your turn, so after the base is broken.
So...
would be really interesting to know, do they go to the disc if it's possible? And I know we're probably giving it too much again, a hypothetical, but if it is possible, does it go to your discard or does it go to your bottom of your deck?
It would go to the discard, because the anything on the base
breaks before the end of your turn.
Yeah, the end of the turn.
Yeah.
Nice thought.
The key to her though is what power 2s have good on play actions. It's mainly about they do have very versatile ones within the faction, but are there any really good power 2s that have copycat a good example? But anything that has a really good on play action that you can just keep bringing back out.
We'll come to it.
Did we really put Fancy Suit Lad through? Is that the?
Yep.
Yeah, you guys put this through.
Yep. You were part of that. When I said to you, which one do you want? And you went, oh, whatever I said before. That is how Fancy Suit Lad got through.
I think
does it matter? This is going to be the easiest discussion I think we've ever had.
Yeah, not for me. Not for me.
Oh, come on, get lost. Oh, come on.
No,
hang on. No, you can start, Luke. You can start.
Yeah,
Please do.
okay.
Please dazzle me with your amazing explanation here.
I don't like There Goes Tokyo. I don't like Kaiju. I think they're awful. I think the actions are all stupid. I really think they're a waste of time. I think destroying entire bases and entire things just sets the game back. Okay, yeah, somebody else could be ahead of you, but for me, I much prefer playing power drops. I prefer having my own combinations that move the game forward, and playing a card that just puts the base and the turn and several turns back to the start is a stupid thing to put in the game for me. Okay, it's fun, and yes, it's valuable, and yes, it can have a big impact on the base, but I think it's a bad card for the game. I think it creates a negative state where you go, okay, I'm going to do this stuff, and then you just go, okay, well, the last 10 minutes was pointless. There you go, everything's gone.
I just want to check. So you think it's okay to cheat to have a card destroy itself and then not actually destroy itself to duplicate its power, but you don't think it's okay to have a card destroy everything?
How are they relevant to each other?
I'm just. You think it's okay to cheat, but you think it's not okay to play the game. It's
I don't think it's
just
okay
an interesting thought process that I was trying to go through there. Sorry, Luke, carry on. I interrupted you.
I don't think it's okay to cheat. Just to clarify.
No,
you're putting Fancy Suit Lab through, are you then, Luke? I take it based on that.
Yeah. I realise you two are going to argue it down, so I'll see it in the next round and I'll have the same conversation again. But I do prefer Fancy Suit Lad. I think protected your own minions. Interestingly, would Fancy Suit Lad stop There Goes Tokyo or not?
No.
Because the base goes anyway.
Yes.
Okay. Well, I still hate it.
I'm pretty sure there's only one card in the entire game that could stop There Goes Tokyo.
Which is?
In the Geeks faction, Will Wheaton.
Right.
And Force of Will as well.
Yeah.
I just.
I mean, to me, it's no contest. To me, There Goes Tokyo is maybe my favorite card in the whole of Smash Up. The whole of Smash Up. The simple fact that you can have your little Spartan getting loads of little power on the corner, like, ooh, yeah, he's doing his thing over there. Look at him. There's a Spartan getting up there. He's got loads of power. Or you've got your first mate. Ooh, he's going to double his power soon. He's going to double his power. Bam. I've destroyed a base that I'm not even playing on. I've absolutely annihilated one of your little slow power plays, and I've set you back without destroying anything else. To me, that's massive. That's massive progress. That card is Crop Circle. It's terraforming. It's terraforming on all of the drugs, and I love that. I think that's amazing. There Goes Tokyo, hands down. It's the best card in all of this.
If I've got a Spartan on a base, okay, there goes one Spartan, but all I've been doing is playing actions, and he's just been gaining more power. I've got another Spartan over there. What are you doing about that one? I've got my first mate on the other base. What are you going to do about that one?
I'll move Gorgonzola, I'll get it out the discard pile, and I'll do the same thing again.
So you've destroyed one minion of mine.
Amazing.
It doesn't benefit you.
No, it's not just. Come on, it's not just one minion. It's the minion that you're building your game around.
Okay,
you've destroyed my one first mate. Oh, I'm really. No, I've destroyed the thing that you've been building up all game.
Well, I've got several first mates.
Great. Power the next one up then, and I'll destroy that one when I get round to it too.
Even better, Lee. You go. Let's imagine a base is broken. Luke's got all his jacked first mates on it. He moves them all to another base. You go lightning rescue into There Goes Tokyo to just nuke the base.
That's not going to happen there.
What an amazing combo. I'd be so excited to see something like that happen. To me, There Goes Tokyo is the dreamer's play without having to dream. It's such a big play, and it wrecks people's game plan. It absolutely destroys the game plan. And I'd even sacrifice a couple of minions myself to make it work. It is an absolute. It's like in case of emergency, break glass and push this button card. I'm going to lose the game because I've not been able to get anything on this base. Oh well, I'm going to absolutely mess with everybody, and I'm going to make everybody build it back up from zero. Boom, I'm playing that, and I'm prolonging the game for a bit longer to see if I can get myself back into it. Or, like you say, destroying somebody else's where they've been hiding a power 5 that they've been making super impossible to kill, or you've got Uber Serum all over the place. I've just destroyed the base it's on, so your minions have gone. It's such a good card because it's not really affected by anything else.
I think you've really captured it well. I think it's such a fun card as well. I think that's one of the things about it. You have a nuclear option, like almost no faction has a nuclear option like this, where you can just literally destroy an entire base, everything on it, and completely reset it. And the tiny priestesses in the faction basically just becomes tiny priestess, there goes Tokyo, bye bye everybody. And this is the only card in the game that can get rid of those really, really sticky minions and sticky actions. Like the geeks have got the Game Guru, which literally says no card can affect this. There goes Tokyo is the only thing that can get rid of those cards by discarding the base and everything on it. So for me, it's comfortably there goes Tokyo. It's just such a good card. It is your reset option as well, as you say. If you're far behind on one of the bases, you just drop your tiny priestesses, move gets all down, just nuke it. I mean, that's great. Like, who doesn't like that apart from Luke? I mean, it's just incredible. Fancy Suit Lad, I've actually kind of changed my mind on, because I didn't put Fancy Suit Lad through.
Here we go.
I put Sakura Warrior through.
Tell me, Matt, you think it's better?
It's a good card. It's a perfectly fine card.
For a series like this, I think it's probably a better card than maybe Rainbow Girl is the one better, but for more universal across factions. Whereas Fancy Suit Lad, the thing I'm going to say about Magical Girls, and I'll maybe spoil it a bit for the next round, but they're really good in the faction, but individually they're not that good. And I think individually this is one of the better cards in Magical Girls, even though I don't think it's better than There Goes Tokyo. But I'll say more about that in the next round.
It does feel like Fancy Suit Lad doesn't quite fit in with the faction. It's like they're just on, okay, we're a bit short on, okay, they all work together now. What does this guy do? Okay. I reckon there's some sort of theme to it that I'm missing.
Yeah, same. I get that. I actually thought that as I was looking through it, Luke. I think it's a valid point. Plus, it's a perfectly adequate ongoing ability. Like, it's a perfectly good card. And like you've just said there, Mark, it works perfectly well outside of the faction. In fact, it's one of the only ones from the Magical Girls that does, like you've just said. So, but I think that's another case of that faction being individual cards are not greater than the sum of the parts. That the sum of the parts are a much, much better faction as an overall.
Yeah, I completely agree. And
thanks. That's good. That's a good point I made.
We agree on There Goes Tokyo. It is the nuclear button, and everyone.
Oh, I love that. I've got so much time for that. Anyway, we'll get back to that in a minute.
Okay, next one up, we've got Lunar Captain and Lightning Rescue.
I'll say my piece before you both put Lightning Rescue through, should I?
Yeah, I mean, I'm probably.
I don't know. I want to listen to Mark before I decide.
I'm good. To me, it's Lunar Captain, and as much as you've said yourself that the Lightning Rescue, and you almost won me over when you talked about Lightning Rescue. There Goes Tokyo. That would be a fantastic little. You got me back going and everything. Yeah, a really little teasy option. But no, for me, it's Lunar Captain's is better. My heart is with zombies. Playing from discard pile wins you the game. It just means that you're not frightened about playing things down. You don't need to worry so much about when something goes to a discard pile. It's why we liked the pink trooper over the black trooper, because you've got that special that allows you to put something back to your hand so it doesn't go back to the discard pile. Lunar Captain basically allows you to pull straight back out of discard, and if you're playing that with something like Ghosts, that's even better, where you've got other combinations of things where you can pull from the discard pile, or when you've got zombies. To me, the Lightning Rescue it's good. It's a perfectly good card, and I was arguing for Kaijuki earlier on, but Lightning Rescue is perfectly valid, arguably the better card out of the two, but in terms of Kaijuki. But that special is only as strong as the other card that you've got to play, and for me, you've got to go straight up, and to me, that's Lunar Captain. Lunar Captain is a very good, I would say, maybe not the best, but very good King Minion. That's the sort of King Minion and the kind of talent that you'd want from a King Minion. So, yeah, that's where my vote goes.
Yeah, I mean, for me, Lunar Cap, I mean, you just said it there, that talent is amazing. And when you've got 5 minions on a base, you can pretty much get anything. There's not very much that you can't get with that talent. So you've constantly got a chain of recovering your best minions from the discard pile. I think the issue for me is that the Magical Girls have that engine. So they've got Lunar Captain, they've got Sakura Warrior, Bewitching Gal, and the other Power 4, I can't remember the name of it, but those 4 minions together are brilliant in that you can drop the power of the base, you can drop the power of another player's minion, you can destroy a minion, and then there's another one actually where you can move a minion. So you can do pretty much everything in Smash Up in those 5 cards. And like as a 5 together, it's probably like the strongest 5 minions you can put because the talents are just insane. But that's the kind of issue with them, is that you need all of them together, otherwise it doesn't really work that well. You don't really achieve the kind of full potential of that combination. And I think the problem with Luna Captain and Magic Girls in general is, okay, you try and keep them in play with Woken Castle, but as soon as you've dropped 3, 4, even all 5 of those minions, you've pretty much broken a base. So the actual value you're going to get out of that and how realistic that is not particularly achievable, I don't think. And obviously with Luna Captain, you need at least 3 minions, I'd say, for the talent to be decent, because you can get power 3s back. Any more than that is great, but then it's more likely that the base is already breaking. So it's very difficult to actually achieve the best value from this talent and from all of the talents in the Magical Girls, as good as they are. You need them all together.
It's funny, I hadn't really properly considered that. I was just looking at the talent thinking, oh, that's a really good talent, but I hadn't properly considered the fact that actually you've got to power up the base really with minions before you get the best use out of the card. I did think, like you said, 3 is probably a bare minimum of what you want, but I hadn't really considered that at all. And if you ever want to get 5 down, you've got no chance of getting anything out, because if you've got 5 down in a 3-player game, what else are people playing? What are people doing? I hadn't really thought about it in terms of the black cat, white cat that Luke mentioned earlier on, and that is quite a nice little way, I think, to use that talent perhaps the best, because you're searching out for the various different things. But no, maybe you're right. Maybe I'm changing my maybe I'm changing my mind. Luke, what have you got to say?
I was just going to say, I'll just finish up on the.
Sorry, Mark.
It's one of those ones that works really well with Critter Champion, because you can play your Critter Champion, get minions onto that base, and then you withdraw them at the end of the turn, so you don't actually necessarily add a lot of power, but you still get the benefit from those Magical Girl talents. But yeah, for me, it's more of a whole faction thing rather than individually good cards. Whereas Lightning Rescue is that kind of, you can pair it with almost any faction, you've probably got a good special card there. There are some downsides, and I don't know whether to leave them to the final, but for me, it's quite clear that Lightning Rescue is the better individual card in the expansion compared to Luna Captain.
The thing for Luna Captain, if you can time the Black Magikarp and Luna Captain rotation between the discard, because Black Magikarp will let you search her out from the deck and from the discard. And as long as you've got Luna Captain on a base, Magikarp is power 1. So if Magikarp's in your discard pile, you get it straight back out. Luna Captain goes into your discard pile, you can get it straight back out with the cat. If you can time that rotation right, you can have your King minion out the entire time. You can use its power 5 to break braces every time, and you always have that recursion. Even if you've got 2 power 1s that you can get out for a start, and you can use both the power 1s to get other minions either out of your deck or your discard. So you can create this fantastic chain, if you can time it right, of being able to search out and get them back out almost at will. So you probably need a few extra minion plays to ramp it up a bit, but you can create this fantastic combo. Having said that, I do really like Lightning Rescue. I think being able to play some of the amazingly powerful actions as a special is fairly unstoppable. There's not a lot people can do if you get the right combination. I think Luna Captain's a bit more consistent and it works really well within the faction. And Lightning Rescue is the best card that you can slot into any other faction and it becomes good. Realistically, every faction will benefit if it had that in, because all of a sudden now all your actions become playable as a special.
Can you give me, for instance, where you've got, because I'm really struggling to think where Lightning Rescue is going to win you a game. Like, it's going to be single use. You get it for one card. No, unless you've got the big, because I understand that it is, I understand that it's super powerful, and the fact that, like, you've just captioned it perfectly there for me. The fact is that any action play becomes a special action, and I think that is powerful. But I'm struggling to think a good, easy to access action, because obviously when we compare these, you're talking about the best case scenario all the time, and I think with Lunar Captain, it's actually fair to consider the opposite. And just as you've described there, Luke, and I think it was really well put, the idea of that kind of repeating pattern with Lunar Captain and the Black Cat, I'd not even thought of that, and I was just thinking to myself, oh, what an amazing little way you could pair that up with Shark. You just eat the cat every single time, power up your Shark, and then just get it straight back out the discard pile, and then you've got that there for Lunar Captain. But just as a thought process, I thought that was quite a nice little way of being able to freely power up a minion without it actually costing you anything. But of course, you have to play that minion down every time, so there is a slight cost to it. But
with sharks as well, you 2 great whites, you can move them to Lunar Captain, or have them on Lunar Captain's base, get a minion of power 3, then break away, so you can keep on using that talent without having to.
So there is a nice little synergy
tornadoes.
there.
Finally, a pair for tornadoes and movement.
Sheep as well. Sheep perhaps might work, or penguins will work quite nice. Anyway, but I'm struggling to think of a really good action card that you would want down where, I don't know, maybe it's because I've not played in a little while, but to me, I'm thinking what sort of power you're looking at? 2 from an action that's going to win you something, because that's probably the easiest thing to get hold of, isn't it? Most factions add 2 power to something.
Well, my point to that would be 2 or 3 points. There isn't necessarily an action that will win you the game on its own. I think there are some that can win you 5 victory points on their own, and everything else is a sliding scale downwards from there. But the amount of times that we played where it's been, you're on 13, I'm on 12, there's another person around at a similar number, the 2 versus 3 victory points at the end does actually make a big difference. So there isn't necessarily an action that you can turn to a special that will win you the game flat out, but it could win you in a base entirely that could have enough swing to win you the game in the long run. But it's quite hard to say. Lunar Captain will add consistency to how your strategy plays and how often you've got her out and how often you're adding 5 to the base. So it's probably more consistent for its faction. But if you play even a faction that lets you add a +2 to a minion, or even a +1 to a minion, it might be enough to win 2 extra victory points on a base that could ultimately win you the game. And that's the flaw, really. That is the very bottom of it, is a card that lets you play an extra minion or lets you add 2 power, or there's loads of cards like that are just fairly basic, really, that will help you win those even 1 extra victory point.
I mean, I'm not saying that 2 powers to be sniffed at, because at the end of the day, like you say, it often does come down to 1 or 2 power, particularly in a 3-player game. But I'm just struggling to think of a scenario where 2 power for 1 base, albeit 1 victory point maybe difference, is going to be better than in the scenario you described, having your king minion out for basically the whole game.
It might not be. What I'm thinking of is the scenarios where the base was broken not on your turn. You thought you had it, all of a sudden someone jumped you on the base and broke it where you didn't expect them to, and then it gives you an answer to that which you wouldn't normally have in a base, in a faction that doesn't have specials.
Okay, so, I accept that.
Yeah, it's tough for me because I like both a lot. I've played with Magical Girls a good few times, and every time I do, I think I should play more. But we sort of have a bit of an internal, shall we play with Titans? When we're playing with new players, we try and leave them out just while they're learning the game and stuff. So they end up getting a little bit left behind. But I do really like Lunar Captain, and when you spend some time with the cat combination and the stuff they do, it is really fantastic.
I'm voting Lunar Captain. I've not been sold on Lightning Rescue.
I'm voting Lightning Rescue, Luke.
I don't know. I really don't know.
What's holding you back?
I've played with Lunar Captain, and it's so satisfying to have her out the whole time. Get the cats. It's powerful. I love just going, right. The amount of times I was just going, right, I'll have this one back. Right. Sometimes I didn't even need them back. I would just take them back because then you had something to discard later, or just go, right, every time I can take this back. And it feels so powerful. But I know the ceiling of Lightning Rescue is huge. And if you sat down as a group and went, what are the maddest plays we can come up with? You come up with some fantastic ones. Aliens, you just dump it into Aliens, it works. There's some, by the time we finish doing all this series, there'll be some fantastic actions that are in our top one. Time Walk. Imagine Time Walk. Imagine playing Time Walk as a special base action. Just taking an extra turn in this. Do you know what I mean? It creates a crazy game.
Downsides of Lightning Rescue, I was going to mention this next one. I'll say the downsides now are that you have to obviously have the action you want to play in your hand at the same time as Lightning Rescue when the base you want to play that action on is breaking. So there's a lot of conditionality to it. And then also as well, imagine that crop circle situation. There might be a better time earlier on in the game to play crop circle, but then do you go, oh, I've got Lightning Rescue in hand. Should I just leave crop circle in hand so then play it with Lightning Rescue when actually the best time to play it might have been earlier on in the game. So you might be hurting yourself as well, keeping some of your good actions back to play as a special action rather than but it's obviously something you think about going into it. You go, well, what's the best action compared with Lightning Rescue? Is it good for me to leave it and play it with Lightning Rescue, or do I want to be playing it earlier in the game and play something else instead? And so it's those kind of decisions. But as I say, you have to you have to have it in your hand at the same time as Lightning Rescue, and when it's two individual cards, that can be quite difficult. So you may.
And that for me is why I don't think Lightning Rescue should go through, because I think you're not relying on the strength of Lightning Rescue, or rather you are, but you're relying on the strength of the other card that you're playing with it. It's only as good as the other card you've got in hand, whereas Lunar Captain is better, 1-for-1.
And actually, that's a decent point in that you are limited to how many times you're able to play Lightning Rescue. Do you have 5, 6, 7 opportunities per game to play Lightning Rescue? Whereas
I think, honestly, are you going to expect 5 or 6 in a 3-player game? I wouldn't expect much more. Well, yeah.
Well,
I don't know. You could be right, to be fair. Every time a base breaks, you've got the option to play it. I suppose, I never really thought that. But
you're limited, aren't you? You might miss a couple of turns when it's not even in your hand.
I've said my piece anyway. I've said Lunar Captain. It's up to you guys to decide.
It really does depend on the pairing, Lightning Rescue, and it, as you say, it can have those incredibly high ceilings. And I think on the player count as well. Like if you're playing a 2-player game, how often are you going to have a base where you want to do something like some kind of like There Goes Tokyo style play? Because you're pretty much always going to have commitment on the base, so you really need to have an action to play as a special action that can play into what you're doing on that particular base at the time. Like if you're winning that base, maybe you want to do something else or move a minion away or something like that. If you lose on the base, maybe you want to destroy a minion or play an extra minion. If you've got no presence on the base, maybe you want to just nuke the base. Like it's incredibly dependent on what's happening in the game, and like you can't always predict what's happening in the game. So as I say, like the Alien example where Lightning Rescue into Crop Circle or Lightning Rescue into Terraforming, although there's 5 or 6 chances to play Lightning Rescue, there may only be 1 chance to play that specific combination, because actually on the other bases you're breaking, you may be winning and you don't want to Crop Circle the base, or you don't want to Terraforming the base. So the number of chances actually reduces down, but
and it's probably not a thing, but you've only got 10 possible cards you're allowed in your hand as well. And do you really want to waste 2 slots with one play that you might not even make?
And actually, the actions you're speaking about there, Crop Circle and Terraforming, have a lot of value being played during the turn.
On their own, during the turn, planned play. Do you really want to wait until a base is breaking before you slam that down and do that?
I mean, for me, it's I'm talking myself out of Lightning Rescue, but for me,
I think you've taught me out of it. Actually,
it's still a better card. But
I'll tell you what you have done. You have talked me into thinking it's actually that there is a good card in the Power Rangers faction, because genuinely I was looking at it thinking I hate absolutely everything that's in here, and I'm gonna go with a couple that say special that make me a little bit excited. And Lightning Rescue I thought was probably the best of a bad bunch, and as it turns out I was right. Lightning Rescue is the best of a bad bunch, but. And I would probably have it in a best of card faction as well, because what an excellent thing to put in to make anything special. But the better card in this case is Lunar Captain, because the Lightning Rescue only makes everything else better. It doesn't make itself any good. It's useless on its own. If you've only got Lightning Rescue as your only action in your hand, it's useless.
The problem for me is that Lightning Rescue is the only thing that can compete for me with the Critter Champion or There Goes Tokyo. So if it doesn't go through, it's an easy find for me. In that whatever
will beat. That's the problem, though. I don't want There Goes Tokyo to win.
Well, honestly, I don't think it. But in that instance, it doesn't matter to me what you put through because my vote is going to be for There Goes Tokyo in the final. So spoilers.
Well, we've got 4.5 minutes left on this, and it's going to take a few minutes to render the video.
I'm going for Lunar Captain.
Lunar Captain.
Lunar Captain.
It's close. It's quite close, that for me. But
you guys made it closer than I thought it was going to be, and I'll concede on that. But I just think that the talent is the fact that you get it every single play, and we talked about a couple of scenarios there that are really easy to pull off, pairing with something like Sharks or something like Tornadoes, where you've got a lot of nice movement. You move it on, do your thing, move it away, lovely. Or all the Zeppelins in the Steampunks faction, other sort of things that we hadn't really got, or plays that I've not really considered before. But it opens up a new style of play that I've not really ever bothered with. So I like that.
All right. Well, do you want to start, Lee? Because you're going to be the clearest on this. I think you've probably got a clear idea of who's winning this one.
I mean, I'll be perfectly honest. I like both of these cards. I do. I think Critter Champion's a really strong card, and like I said before, I think it works exceptionally well in its faction. And this is one of the things I took away from this expansion is that, and I think you might have said it earlier on, Mark. I almost get the impression that they designed the cards to go with the Titans, so they designed the Titans first in terms of what they wanted them to be. Certainly, that feels true for Rainbow Rock and for Gorgonzola, and I think that's what we're doing here is comparing almost those two Titans with these two abilities, and I think that's almost the feeling that I'm getting from these two cards. And I think Critter Champion, beyond most other King minions that are in my head right now, works better with its faction than pretty much every other King minion that I could probably think of. There might be a couple of exceptions to that, but certainly inside of its faction, Critter Champion works so well. And like Luke was saying about it earlier on, you're essentially getting a free action play from its talent every single play. And if there is a possibility of chaining, like we were talking about before, something that allows you to from the Shapeshifters faction, just bringing their mimics into play and bringing the I've forgotten the names again. Sorry, the power twos into play. Thank you, Luke. Yeah, the copycats, where you're bringing the copycats into play. If that is allowed as a play, I think Critter Champion's super duper powerful. But to me, I can't get past that nuclear option. That if in case of emergency, break class to destroy Tokyo and everything that's associated with Tokyo. And I think that is just such a fun and wonderful play. Why would you not want that? Mark has said it numerous times. There are so many sticky cards in this game that you're begging yourself to get rid of. You're trying to plan around, and you don't have to plan around them with this card. You just blot that down and it destroys everything, and the person is left speechless on the other side of the game table because you've just destroyed their play, you've destroyed their engine, or you've destroyed something about the faction that makes it work, and you've essentially made it if not impossible, you've made it extremely difficult for them to get back on their feet, because you could have taken out a number of really good base actions, you could have taken out a number of really good minions, you could have taken out a really good base, and all of those things are done with one card. And I know the aim of the game is to win VP, and it's all about trying to put as many of those VP in your back pocket as possible. But There Goes Tokyo is a card that allows you to do that, because it stops everybody else winning those VP when you can't. Or even if you can, using There Goes Tokyo destroys everybody else's opportunity to do that in one card. So yes, getting yourself VP is extremely valuable, and resources to be able to do that it's the aim of the game. That's what you're trying to do. But taking 3 VP away from somebody else, 5 VP away from somebody else is in many ways as valuable. And I think the fact that it targets everybody unequivocally without any prejudice, I think is an absolutely wonderful thing. And there are times where you might even want to destroy your own cards, your own actions, so that you can bring them back. Like, is it Johnny? Johnny's the power 2, isn't it, in Kaiju?
Yeah, let you move an action around, Johnny, I think.
Yeah,
I think picked up a bus, actually get an action from your discard pile and put it into your hand.
Yeah, I think Johnny does as well. I think Johnny allows you to play an action from discard as well. Play it directly on the when you play it down, it allows you to play directly from discard. I think it's your power 2 minion. I think it's your power 2 minion that allows you to play straight from discard. But if it is, There Goes Tokyo allows you to destroy something else, and then allows you to sort of get it straight back out of your discard pile to have there just in case you need it again. I think it's an amazing card. I said it before. it's one of, if not my favourite cards in the whole of the Smash Up game.
I think you've
for me, if I could just there's a few points I'd like to bring up with you there. It doesn't stop you. It doesn't stop you gaining 3 VP. It just puts you back some turns. It doesn't take away any victory points. You might be getting close to getting those victory points, but it doesn't stop you getting them because you've still got the next chance when the next base comes out, and you might be able to do something about what's just happened. It does put you back some turns because you've lost some plays that you've done or what have you been building, if you do build stuff. But the amount of bases I see that get first person goes on, second person goes on, third person goes on, it's broken, without chaining or building or doing too much of any stress, that might only take one turn away from everybody. And you've played your action, so you played your minion. So let's say you're not doing any extra action plays or minion plays. You've gained 1 minion on everyone else. So you played 1 minion, they played 1 minion, next person played 1 minion, you played your action, you put them back 1 minion and gain yourself up 1 minion. That's one scenario. There's the dream scenario where I've been building this massive first mate, which I try and do all the time.
Every single game.
And you've wrecked it. Yeah, great. That's you can't argue with that. But if I know you've got There Goes Tokyo, I'm not going to put all my eggs in one basket. I'm not going to build the massive.
Yes, you will.
I'm not going to build a massive first mate that you can't stop.
Yes,
I'm going to go down a different route. I'm going to spread it. I'm going to spread them around at various bases, or I'm going to wait till it's the right moment to make it the power where it breaks every base. It's the dream in this card. I can play around it. If I know you've got it, I can work around it. If I know you're playing Kaiju, it's very easy to go, all right, well, I'm not going to put all my eggs in one basket. I'm going to leave that Spartan there, and if he ends up getting powerful, fine, but that's not going to be my main play.
That is your main play. That's your engine for that faction.
No, you can have all sorts of plays in that faction. You've got extra minion plays, extra action plays, power counters. You can spread them
really
around.
Good with Kaiju. So the Argonaut and stuff plays into Gorgonzola.
Yeah.
I think you made a really, really good point there, Tank, I hadn't thought of, is that you can get rid of the base, and that's more important than we've given credit for here, because you think about those really problematic bases like Rhodes Plaza Mall, which is the 000, and if someone's got 10 minions on Rhodes Plaza Mall and not broken it yet because it's got the high breakpoint, they're going to get 10 VP from that base. You can just go, no, you're not having that 10 VP. Let's just get rid of that base and let's restart with a different base. And they lose everything on there as well, so this sets them back. It gets rid of problematic bases, which can be just as good as actually the effect itself. And I think there's definitely a bit of Body Shot kind of justification coming through for you here as well, Tank, because obviously Body Shot doesn't destroy it, but There Goes Tokyo does destroy whatever Body Shot is targeting. So it validates the destruction there for you. But
when Godzilla says destroy, he means destroy. There ain't no bear cavalry protecting you here, my friend.
And this is you mentioned it as well about the Titans. I think it's an interesting point. It's a side point. We haven't actually looked at any of the Titans, and we didn't need to bring them up. But Kaiju, I don't think Kaiju could win a game without Gorgonzola, but the other factions I feel could probably win a game even without their Titan. Kaiju are really dependent on Gorgonzola, whereas the others I think can probably get away without playing them once in the game. They probably will, and then we certainly will play them. But it's a bit. I don't know why that kind of it resonated with me. But yeah, Kaiju are so dependent on Gorgonzola, and all of these cards play into Gorgonzola, and Gorgonzola is so strong. It's the engine for the faction. Whereas the others, I feel, are a bit more. They're supplementary, really. They're not essential to the faction. But I suppose that's an aside. For me, this is incredibly close because you've talked about all the reasons why I like There Goes Tokyo, and
before you decide, nobody's talked anything about Critter Champion here.
I did.
Oh, go on.
I started it off by talking about Critter Champion.
No, if you were going to talk about Critter, before you decide, Mark, because we know what Lee's answer already, I'd like an opportunity to get you to join my side. So before
you go first. Yeah, you go first because Lee's spoken about There Goes Tokyo.
So I've just brought up a quick list of the Power 2 minions, how many there are in the Critter Champion, and what they do. And in my head, you're almost getting a Power 5 Archmage. You are a little bit limited to what I actually can get, but I think there's enough within these minions to make it on a par with Archmage and an extra action every play. So you've got a +1 power counter, you can draw a card, you can get +2 to the end of the turn, shuffle a card from your discard pile into your deck, destroy a Power 2 or less move another minion. So I think you've got enough there that even if you have nothing specific about breaking bases, you can just add a power counter, which is as good as the one in Herr Doctor from Mad Scientists. You can do that every play, and you've got a Herr Doctor, and we put that very high. Did that win? I think that won, didn't it?
Herr Doctor did win, yeah.
Herr Doctor
Yeah,
won.
so already that's as good as Herr Doctor. You can do that every single play. Plus, you can draw a card every single play, which we've seen, and that's strong. Or you've got getting a card from your discard pile and back into your deck every play, and then you got your movement and a little bit of destruction and some other bits. So that to me is basically like having the extra action recursion of a good range of actions. You're not getting the mad actions like terraforming and things like that you can use as extra plays, but there's enough there that not only is she a Herr Doctor, but she can also be a card draw every turn. She can also destroy. You've got the choice. You've got the choice to do that every time. The only time you don't have the choice to do that is if you foolishly played down your minion onto a base and it hasn't gone back into the discard pile, into the deck, sorry. And I don't think There Goes Tokyo is a satisfying card because you want to see the look on my face when you mess up my plan. That's the only.
Yes.
That's
good.
the only good thing about it. Other than that, it's great for the person playing the card. But other than that, you just put the game state back a few turns. If we had a finite deck that you couldn't just recycle back through, that might be much stronger than it is. But your card's going to come back around again.
I can't tell you how much I disagree with that statement. You're not putting you plan to use There Goes Tokyo, but it is there if you need to use it for an emergency as well. I don't think that you put your game state back because I think what you do is play actions. And I think where you've got cards like Johnny and cards like Pick Up a Bus where you get to recycle them from discard pile, it doesn't put you back at all. Because all that you're doing is putting everybody else back and leaving yourself in a massive advantage where you're able to play on the new base. And it doesn't destroy Gorgonzola. So you've powered Gorgonzola up before you destroy a base. You move Gorgonzola, you're then playing from your discard pile with things like Pick Up a Bus. It's not putting you back at all. If you think it's putting you back, I think you're using it wrong.
I didn't say that it puts you back.
Yes, you did. You said it puts the game state back.
Yes,
you said it puts the game state back.
Yeah, it does.
So you don't think putting everybody else at a disadvantage and you at a massive advantage is a good card?
It just puts it back 3 turns and you gain 1 turn, half a turn. More.
Did Time Warp win? Did Time Warp win? Just remind me.
Yeah.
And what does Time Warp do? It gives you an extra free turn?
Yeah, this isn't
right.
An extra
so I'm
turn.
Giving myself 3 free turns based on your own description then.
No, you are not.
You just said you literally just said it puts everybody back 3 turns.
If I played all 3 minions on the same base and it didn't break and 3 actions that contributed to those minions, yes, you put me back 3 turns, but that's not real. That's not going to happen. That's not realistic. Two players aren't going to put 6 minions down with direct 6 actions on top of them and then not break that base. It's just not going to happen.
Just remind me, did Terraforming win? It didn't, did it? Invader won.
Terraforming didn't win.
No, did Terraforming make the final?
No, it was a semi-final. It was Invader versus Terraforming.
It was Invader versus Terraforming, and that was the one that we had a large discussion about because Terraforming is such a powerful card because it changes the base.
Yes, it changes the base.
And
what
does Tokyo do?
Yeah, you choose the base in terms of Terraforming. You get to choose what the result is.
That's the difference. That's a huge difference that you're overlooking here.
It's about the same to me.
It's not.
I think for me, you've actually mentioned there as well, Critter Champion. You can kind of create like a mobile first mate style card as well because you alternate between giving Critter Champion a +1 power counter. Next turn, you move Critter Champion and give it another +1 power counter. You move it again. You get this mobile kind of big fat minion.
And don't get me wrong, I'm high on Greater Champion. I am. I think it's a wonderful card, and I said it before. I said it right at the start of my little rant that I think it's so well designed in the faction that it's in. And when Luke read out the list of cards, I did think to myself, it's amazing. It can be amazing. You can kind of make it to do whatever you really want it to do, and it's exceptionally powerful in that regard. But it is not a better card than There Goes Tokyo because of what There Goes Tokyo does to the game.
And I think for me, the Critter Champion as well. It potentially suffers from because you've got 6 power 2 minions, obviously, you're probably going to naturally draw into them as well at some point in the game before you get a chance to use his ability and put them all to the bottom. So you will struggle from actually drawing into the ones that you maybe want to play through Critter Champion. But I think for me, the strength of the Critter Champion, which I haven't talked a whole lot about, is it's strong in its own faction, but it's also really strong with certain pairings. and this is a pairing I've not played before, but I know people are really big on Itty Critters and Grimm's Fairy Tales. I don't know if you guys have played it, but
I've not. I can't.
Grimm Fairy Tales are from the newest expansion, which obviously came out just before COVID and all that sort of stuff. So there's probably not really been much chance to play it. But there's 4 power 2s in the Grimm Fairy Tales faction, and all they do is they give you +2 power if the equal, if the pair are together. So basically, Critter Champion lets you drop 2 power 4 minions with the effect. So you go from 5 power up to 13 power in one turn. Basically, if you do that, you play it naturally, and then also play Critter Champion. So it's like a huge power burst in that faction. And then for me as well, it's Itty Critters and Ignobles that we've talked about, because you play the Sneaky Squire from your deck, you give it to the other player, you then get to play an extra minion, and you draw 2 cards, and then you can use Foot of the King to get it back. So you don't necessarily get the downside of Critter Champion, where you have to put it to the bottom of your deck. So in certain pairings, it's actually a really good engine for that pairing as well. And there's most factions have power 2 minions. You're going to get a lot of value from Critter Champion just if you're obviously aiming to pair it with a faction that has really strong power 2 minions. So even Wizards, for instance, you've obviously got the 7 power 2 minions there in the 4 Neophytes and the other 3 cards. Well, I don't necessarily think that's a great pairing, but if you get where I'm going with this, it's obviously really strong in certain pairings. So it's a really tricky one, because it is the engine minion for the faction, and it's also the engine minion for some very, very strong pairings. But then on the flip side, you've got There Goes Tokyo, which is your big reset button. And it's not necessarily a reset button, because as you say, you get to keep Gorgonzola in play. And if Gorgonzola's got lots of power counters, then you can move it to another base and potentially break a different base on the back of that. So I'm kind of like 50-50 on this. It's a lot closer than I think. I'll
tell you what I will say is that whichever card wins this is going to win the final, because
for me it certainly will. Yeah, for me.
Yeah.
I'm probably leaning more towards Critter Champion, maybe. There Goes Tokyo certainly plays more into my playstyle. I like just destroying stuff, and There Goes Tokyo is the best destruction card.
Oh, it's one of the best. It's one of the best, if not the best card in the game.
I'll accept it's one of the best destruction cards, but that's all it is. It's a destruction card. It's versatile in that, okay, you can get rid of the base, and you can get rid of some minions, but really, it's
genuinely. You are a really clever man, Luke. A really clever man, and I genuinely cannot get my head around how you can't see that card is amazing. I genuinely, I'm stumped. I'm stumped at the fact that you don't think that is a good card.
I'm not saying it's not. I'm not saying it's not a good card.
You've been saying it all night.
No. I'm not saying it's not a strong card, because it is a strong card. I'm saying it's a bad card for the game, because all it does is set. In the same way I don't like Vikings. God. In the same way I don't like Vikings and I don't like Spies. They slow the game down. And the same way Dragons are fantastic, but we don't play them with our group, because it takes the game backwards. It slows it down. It makes it not fun.
I
don't think cards like There Goes Tokyo are good for the game. I think they, I think they're fine in small amounts in isolation, but there are certain cards that create a negative state, which are nice because you need a versatile game, you need different aspects, but they don't create a fun game to play. I think playing Critter Champion is fun, and it makes this nice pattern, and you can be clever with it. Whereas you're just going, those things you were planning to do, and you're being really clever. Well, get rid of them.
Oh, I love that though. That's so funny.
Stop thinking about all that plan you did. Just get rid of it.
The difference, but that is part of the. You said Dragons, and I think Dragons is probably the closest one that I'd accept is similar to There Goes Tokyo, because to me the other ones you mentioned, Spies and Vikings, I think it's unfair to put them in the same vein as There Goes Tokyo, because they are long, choking, stupid cards that do really choke a game down. Less so Vikings. You don't like Vikings, you don't like your cards taken off you, but There Goes Tokyo is the instant play, and to me, you build up to it as that enormous wipe out whatever anybody's been trying to do to make it back to your game. You get to control that game, and that's the ultimate Dreamers card. That's not powering other people's stuff up. It is stopping everybody else from doing that. So, like
you
Dragons,
don't gain anything.
Yes,
That
you do.
You need
get
to
your
be
Gorgonzola back
behind.
on another game, on
You
another
need to be
base.
behind everybody else, and then put them back so that you're back to where you were.
No, not necessarily.
With
I've used
maybe a few extra actions on some bases from previous turns, but
I've
you've not
used
got
There
enough
Goes Tokyo,
minions. You've not got enough minions to be playing a minion as well.
but
So
you
you
don't
probably
need
only
to.
had a couple of actions go down.
You don't need to, that's why I think There Goes Tokyo is such a good card, because you don't need the minion. All right, sometimes I guess you do get a bit minion stuff, but you've still got access to them, and you can play from discard, and you can move those things around to allow you that extra power, and that's where dropping that There Goes Tokyo down is what's giving it the impactful thing. Remember, we're trying to look for the best card in Smash Up. We're looking for the best card in Smash Up. What on earth does what that card can do?
I'm not saying it's not unique either.
But
I'm not saying it's
the
not
best
strong.
card in Smash Up. There's nothing that comes close to it.
You need to gain over your good cards, help you gain over your opponent. Create a Champion helps you do that every single turn that's on the field.
Okay,
plus
so
you're
I'm going to
power.
lose because you've powered up your first mate to a point where you're going to be able to move it from base to base. I've destroyed that, so I've gained over you because you don't have any power anymore.
If I've done that successfully, where I've got my first mate to 21 power, the game is over. That is irrelevant.
It's up to 20, and on your next turn, you're going to power it up.
So, well, I'm not going to go for 20, knowing that it could be wrecked on the There Goes Tokyo. I'm going to have as many first mates with power 5 on, and that's it. I'm going to limit it. It's too easy. It's too easy to play around.
I don't think it is, because it's so one card impactful. I don't think it is easy to play around. I don't think you've got the luxury of being able to play on as many minions as you think you do, because I know you've tried this on a number of different occasions where you've tried to power up various different minions, and you invariably focus on one because one of them ends up going to the discard pile somehow. So There Goes Tokyo takes out the other one. I like Critter Champion very, very much, but no one will ever convince me that There Goes Tokyo isn't one of the best cards in this game.
They will go to the discard pile.
The simple fact that we aren't instantly just putting it through, it literally amazes me that I have to fight this hard to get that card through.
I like the 5-power kind of pseudo Archmage example, because you're right in that you do get weaker action abilities, but you get access to them every turn. So every turn you can draw a card, every turn you can move a minion, every turn you can place a +1 power counter. So as you say, it's like the cheeky extra extra action play basically you've got every turn, but it's also better than that because it depends on the pairings. I think that I've been listening to what you've both been saying, and both of these really struggle from pairings, I think, because Kaiju warp the pairing, I'd say, in that with how many actions they've got, 17 actions, it's tricky to play this without something. They've got a couple of actions cards that can play extra actions, but you want to be playing a faction that can help enable the Kaiju and play extra actions, and they don't have many minions. So if you're playing with a partner faction that has a lot of extra minion plays, they really don't benefit from Kaiju. But the same is true for Critter Champion, in that you're pairing this in with something that's got a great power 2 slot, and you're really playing into that. But for most pairings, it's going to be okay because you're going to be playing your own minions rather than the pairing, and that's okay. It's kind of a weaker Archmage. I think the thing for me is Gorgonzola. Yeah, you have to sacrifice something. Most often going to be the Tiny Priestess probably, but you keep the Gorgonzola, which does help to mitigate against that destruction. So Gorgonzola just moves, and if you've got Gorgonzola at like 9 power, a load of power, however much power you have, moving it again to a base where you've got a few actions, you can then potentially break it, is what makes it's the mitigating effect of There Goes Tokyo. And I think for me, I'm probably leaning more towards There Goes Tokyo now, I think, but it's just the fact that it can get rid of a problematic base if you've got a problematic base in play, but problematic minions as well. And it's the whole kind of if you've got that sticky minion, you can get rid of it with this card. You can't get rid of it with any other card. So I think it's probably that. But I suppose I struggle with maybe the universality of There Goes Tokyo. Critter Champion's probably a little bit more universal. It's still very, very strong. It's really strong in certain pairings, but I think just for me,
this is the first time that I've ever looked at one of these things that we've done, and since the first ever video that we filmed, where I'd have been happy with, I don't really like aliens, but I'd have been happy with Invader, I'd have been happy with Terraforming, the Archmage. There was a load of great cards in that base deck where we were arguing. And actually, I was thinking there are 2 or 3 cards in this that I think are some of the best cards in the game. I am happy that Critter Champion and There Goes Tokyo are, to me, 2 of the best cards in the game for all of the reasons that we've said. But for me, There Goes Tokyo is, it's just such a good card. I just can't explain how much
this is the final, really, isn't it? I mean, this is the kind of effective final. I think the problem is that There Goes Tokyo obviously needs Gorgonzola, and you can't just splash There Goes Tokyo into any faction, but any pairing with a kaiju in this card is obviously going to have Gorgonzola in it. So, yeah, I think
by the same vein, Critter Champion needs all of the Power 2 minions from the Critter Champions faction, otherwise you're not getting anything out. So,
although it does work in other factions, though, like I said, there are some really good Power 2 minions that like to play into this card.
All right, Innsmouth.
Well,
there's loads of Power 2 minions in Innsmouth.
I suppose you get the unplayability of the Innsmouth, which is quite good. But I mean, as you said there, like Shapeshifters, where you get the copycat. Imagine if they've got a really good ability in play. I don't know what it might be. Let's just say play an extra action or something, or play an extra minion. You play your copycat, you copy that, you get to play an extra minion play like every single turn with Critter Champion. So it does give you some very, very strong.
Completely.
And you talk quite a bit about Gorgonzola there being one of the strongest Titans because it's carrying a lot of power. But don't forget that your Rainbow Rock is very much part of this engine as well. That's getting a power counter every time you play a Power 2 down. So if you have your Rainbow Rock and your Critter Champion down, and you get out the minion that gives you a power counter, you're getting one on Rainbow Rock, one wherever else you want. You're getting 2 power counters a turn. Plus, it helps you get any minions that you mentioned earlier, Mark, that they go into your hand or you get stuck with them. Once they get in the discard, the Rainbow Rock helps you get them back to your deck. So it functions in recycling the 2s so that you can get them back into your deck to get your 2s out. So you get to select which action you want, playing it, getting a power counter, and then you're able to get them back into your deck as well. So I think there's a scenario where your Rainbow Rock could be on the same power counters as your Gorgonzola.
And then what happens is you play There Goes Tokyo and all of that Rainbow Rock goes to discard.
I think I'm going to go with There Goes Tokyo. It is really, really close, and I did like the Archmage example.
The Archmage argument nearly convinced me. I'm not going to lie. The Archmage argument, I thought, oh no, I've lost Mark. But
the other thing,
the terraforming argument comes back into it.
No, the other thing with Matt saying is the only thing that can remove sticky minions. Well, it's not. You can score the base. If you can score the base, most of the time it's gone. Okay,
but what if you can't score the base and you're going to lose?
Well, then you just put the game back a few turns, and then you still might lose.
Tokyo.
No, but all you're doing, you're not winning the game. You're just prolonging the game. You might stop yourself from losing the game. This is my argument. You might stop yourself from losing the game, but you're not winning the game. You're doing nothing that helps you win the game. You're just stopping yourself from losing it. And you might disagree. You're rolling the dice on your future turns and seeing what might happen. But you're not winning the game with that card.
I disagree because you move Gorgonzola, so it keeps the power that you've got on to recycle it. So you're resetting everybody else, but you're keeping yourself at the. Yeah, but he is the engine for Kaiju. He's what you're powering up to win the base. You know that first mate that you spend all that time trying to power up? Gorgonzola does it faster.
No, but he's not in this. He's not in this.
And he's drawing cards. Yes, he is, because if Gorgonzola is in play, destroy its base. So you can only play There Goes Tokyo when Gorgonzola's there. And you've had to have played that to make There Goes Tokyo powerful. So you've been playing on a Gorgonzola base where you've got your minion, where you may have moved him to that base to be able to destroy it for that turn. But that's where, like Mark says, you're sacrificing your tiny priestesses or whatever. But that's what you're doing. And you're getting draw from that card, and you're getting extra power counters from that card. Critter Champion's great. It's a great card. I'm not panning Critter Champion at all.
We've got 10 minutes, by the way, and I don't want to have to do a new meeting. So we've spent maybe 25, 30 minutes on just this pairing.
This is the decision, Mark.
This is the final.
I think.
Do you know what, Mark? And it's on you.
Me and Luke have said enough. You need to make your decision.
I think Luke's convinced me. I'm going to go Critter Champion. No, I'm just kidding. I'm going with There Goes Tokyo.
Oh, you asshole.
It's really close. It is very, very close.
I know we've talked about percentages before.
I thought I'd done it then. I thought I'd got you back round.
It is very, very close. And that
You
was
flip-flopped a few times there, didn't you?
Yeah, that
flip-flopped
was
a few
that
times
was the
there.
final for me, to be honest, because this is just
Do we need to talk much
I'm
about
going to
Lunar
have
Captain?
to do it again, though. How long are left on the meeting?
We've got 9 minutes. And
I'm going to have to
wrap
do
it
this
up.
all over again. I'm going to have to think of entirely new arguments about
Why?
Lunar Captain is better because
Yeah, in fairness,
There Goes Tokyo should not win.
Well, do you want to give your? Because I presume me and Lee are going to put There Goes Tokyo as winner. So we have a winner. So do you want to just say for those people who want Lunar Captain to win why you think it should have been the winner, Luke, and then we'll.
It functions in the faction. Put them side by side, please.
No, you don't need to.
We've already me and
there
Lee
is nothing. There is literally nothing you can say that's going to convince me.
Then there is no point me saying another word. Then
no, because you may as well.
Like and subscribe.
For the people who wanted to hear why Lunar Captain should win, you may as well say why.
No. No thanks.
Must suck to lose again, Luke. Must suck to lose again.
It was.
Oh well. At least I lost and you didn't win.
I won.
Don't help you win. Don't help you win that card. It just helps.
I won though,
people.
Didn't I? There I am.
It helps you not lose.
Look, There Goes Tokyo is number one.
For the reasons that we mentioned on the previous rounds, I mean, I don't think Lunar Captain is the. It's great in the faction.
I don't.
It's
a good card.
Critter Champion is the better card there.
I don't think it's better than Critter Champion
for me.
Oh yeah, that's same. I think Critter Champion is a way better card. And you said it, Mark. You know, and we talk about percentages in terms of closeness. I have to say, Luke's Archmage argument, it nearly got me. It nearly got me to change my mind. But to me, it comes down to the base of the card. It comes down to the strength of what that card is capable of doing. And There Goes Tokyo changes the game. The whole game.
For a bit.
The whole game. It changes the whole game.
That card there, your entire strategy at the end relied on Gorgonzola being around.
It has to be around.
Yeah, but that's stupid.
True. Yeah, it does have to be around.
Okay.
Stupid.
And what did Mark say right at the start of the video? We are assuming the Titans are in play. Is that not what we said?
Yeah, we are. But that's not a good card on its own.
Neither's Critter Champion.
You can't put that in another faction.
I don't think you can't. I don't separate There Goes Tokyo.
Of course you can.
I think, as I say, with this expansion, we had to consider them with the Titans always been in play because you can't. Because Gorgonzola is probably the best card in the expansion. Like if we just go on kind of surface value, but you just can't separate this card from Gorgonzola. So I think they have to get together.
I think
cards won,
to finish off then, I think that's why this card is better, because this card is what gets the most out of Gorgonzola. By eradicating everything else and everyone else and letting Gorgonzola come and do his thing.
It's close. You'll win one of these one day, Luke, don't worry.
Well, this might be my last one. So we've had the body shop.
No body shop, and now there goes Tokyo.
Body shop debacle.
We'll do a tournament where just all the 8 seeds are just body shop, and you can do your own thing. Yeah, body shop will have to win it.
Do you want me to send you that 20 quid now, Mark, or after?
Yeah, you can send it after. That's
I'm always surprised when we do these, the lack of people in the comments who aren't as steamed as me about it. and I think this time is the time when people are going to get you. They're going to get you too now.
What are they going to get us on? Critter Champion's a great card. I am not panning at Critter Champion at all. Lunar Captain's a good card in its own right as well. But There Goes Tokyo is a game-changing card. It is the best card in Smash Up.
For a bit. Changes it for a bit.
Oh, my God. You're so obtuse.
Until you get your second and third first mate out that you've been saving. You
Yeah.
put out a dummy first mate with a few power counters on as the bait.
Yeah.
Bait you into using There Goes Tokyo.
You know,
and
I
then
just
smash your others back down.
You know, I just picked There Goes Tokyo back at the discard pile, though, right? You know that.
With what?
With Johnny. Johnny does it.
I think Johnny might move. I think it's a movement card rather than a.
I'm Googling that now.
Strategies falling apart as we speak.
Even if you just play it once, though, There Goes Tokyo just once is enough.
I'm just going to put out a bait first mate. Bait you into a 5. Oh, it's only 5 power first mate. Maybe you should kill it.
You can't help yourself.
Should we wrap it up? Because this has been like way longer than I thought it was going to be. We're like over an hour and a half now, I think. For
I'm not happy. I'm not happy about the name change either. You can get that back.
What was the name change?
Hmm.
I didn't see the name.
Salty.
Oh dear.
How about you pick the next one, Luke, and then you
thanks for watching, everyone. Don't forget to give us a big thumbs down, and I may see you next time. I may not see you next time. Let's see what happens.
You'll like the thumbnail, Luke. You'll like the thumbnail. That's the thing. That's what you got to hold on to.
Love this so much. Oh, he's so angry. Oh, he looks like I've just played There Goes Tokyo on his first mate.
Right, I'll wrap it up now. So thank you guys for joining me. That was probably my favourite discussion, to be honest. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, not mine.
Me too. I've thoroughly enjoyed that, Mark. Thanks for your time.
And I'll see you next time.
Don't forget to like and subscribe.